All right.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for taking time to hear the results of our performance audit of One Washington, opportunities to strengthen plans for producing reliable financial statements. My name is Patrick Anderson, Senior Performance Auditor with the Office of the Washington State Auditor. Joining me today is my colleague John Hegman, Staff Auditor with our office and contributor to our report. Before we get started, we'd like to thank the staff and management at One Washington and the Office of Financial Management for their cooperation and support during this audit. The state's core financial management system, known as AFERS, which lets state agencies pay bills, receive payments, and perform other business financial processes, is aging. Older systems like this carry significant limitations and risks. They are usually less reliable, slower, and more vulnerable to cyber attacks, and are costly to maintain. Given the importance of this system to the state's business, Governor Inslee requested funding for the project in 2013. The planned cost for the total project, which covers more than just the core financial management portion of the system, is $465 million. The state created the One Washington program to oversee the replacement of AFERS and other administrative services. One Washington chose Workday, a cloud-based enterprise resource planning system, which touts the benefits of improved efficiency, security, and data access and system support. The key results of our audit are One Washington has taken steps and is taking steps to address risks related to producing financial statements in the new system. Communication, turnover, and training pose risks to agencies' readiness for the transition to using Workday. Success to the project to replace the core financial system is threatened by schedule delays and a lack of documented contingency plans should significant issues arise. This audit asked the following questions. How has One Washington planned to ensure that the state can produce accurate and reliable financial statements? And what support will One Washington put in place to help state agencies prepare for the transition to Workday? We conducted this audit because the project has a large reach, and large projects like this are inherently more risky. Accurate and reliable financial statements prepared by the state are critical because credit rating agencies rely on accurate financial information to assess the state's creditworthiness. The state and state decision makers need reliable financial data to make effective decisions. The State Auditor's Office plays a vital role in ensuring the integrity of the state's financial health through its review of the annual comprehensive financial report. Conducting this audit before the project is completed helps One Washington identify and address key implementation issues and ensures that project decision makers have the information they need to reduce risks before launch. It's important to note a couple of aspects of this audit. Our audit looked at the project while the work is being done. Although the overall project cost covers more than just the financials, procurement, and human resources, and more, we focused on the financial aspect, which is slated to go live on July 1st of 2025. To do that, we looked at only one part of the project, which aims to replace the state's core financial management system. In this graphic, the timeline illustrates the planned financial implementation in orange that runs from 2021 to mid-2025. We reviewed only a portion of this implementation, and that review stemmed from November 23 of last year to July of 2024. As I mentioned, One Washington aims to go live with the new financial management system on July 1st of 2025. I'll now turn our presentation over to John to share with you a little bit more about how One Washington is working to address the risks in critical areas of the project.
Thank you, Patrick. Once again, my name is John Hageman. One Washington has worked to address project risks in 4 critical areas. Number 1, transferring needed data from AFRS to Workday. Number 2, classifying data correctly in Workday. Number 3, generating financial statements from the data in Workday. And number 4, preparing agencies and their staffs to use the new system. To address risks related to transferring existing data from AFRS to Workday, One Washington has taken, or plans to take, steps called for by leading practices. One Washington has identified what data it needs to move to Workday, and has analyzed and mapped that data to the new system. These practices help ensure that the right data gets moved to the new system correctly and eliminates unnecessary work moving data that is not needed. One Washington also plans to back up the data in AFRS before copying it over to Workday, and to isolate other operational systems from AFRS when it switches over to the new system. These practices should protect the original data and other systems during the data transfer. One Washington also has been testing the data in each of its practice data loads and plans to continue testing after the final data transfer is completed. These practices help ensure the accuracy of data in the new system. After AFRS data is transferred to Workday and the new system is being used by state agencies to record financial information, that new information must be classified correctly. To address risks related to that data classification, OFM is offering training to accounting staff. One Washington has implemented effective rules to automate transaction coding. And One Washington has also created a map to make sure that data from agencies' legacy systems get crosswalked to Workday. Now, if data gets added to Workday completely and is coded correctly, the financial statements that will report that information still must be successfully generated. To minimize risks associated with this part of the process, OFM, which is responsible for creating the state's financial statements, plans to use essentially the same process it uses today. Currently, agency staff enter financial data in their agency systems before it is moved to AFRS. Some agencies will enter data directly into AFRS. From there, the data is moved to the state's enterprise data warehouse, where OFM uses its financial reporting tool to generate financial statements. Once the new system launches, staff will enter the data in Workday, where it will be stored in the cloud rather than entering data in agency systems that connect to AFRS. Some agencies will continue to use their existing systems, which are being connected to Workday. However, after that, the process will be the same as the current one. Data will be copied to the enterprise data warehouse, from which OFM staff will use existing software to generate the financial statements. Keeping much of this existing process the same reduces the risk of this process failing. In addition, OFM plans to refine the new financial reporting system for 1 year before using data from Workday to produce financial statements from it. One Washington has taken several steps to help prepare state agencies and their staffs for the transition to Workday. It held focus groups with state agencies to learn about their particular training needs. It has encouraged agencies to take advantage of accounting fundamentals training offered by OFM because the Workday system requires knowledge of accounting principles that was not required to use AFRS. OFM is also rewriting guidance in the state accounting manual to reflect how agencies should perform year-end procedures in Workday. In January 2024, One Washington started conducting weekly informational sessions online for state agency staff. One Washington assigned a change manager to each agency to provide targeted support and communication. and One Washington completed its training plan in March 2024 with high-level plans for key training activities, training roles and responsibilities, a training calendar, curriculum, and sustainment after the system launches. Despite these efforts, risks remain in the critical areas of training state agency staff and contingency planning. Agencies told us that access to key project information has been restricted or not provided in a timely manner. As of July 2024, One Washington did not have a documented contingency plan. Program leadership told us they are working on two contingency plan options. The first would be to continue using or revert back to using AFRS. However, One Washington leadership told us that for this approach to work effectively, the plan would need to be highly detailed. Additionally, agencies have already begun preparing for the transition to Workday. The second option involves launching Workday on the target date despite identified problems and addressing them after the system begins operation. Until One Washington defines and establishes its contingency plans and identifies the events or assessments that would trigger their use, this remains an area of risk that could affect the success of the system implementation and the state's ability to produce accurate and reliable financial statements. Agencies and the program's quality assurance contractor identified turnover among change management staff and in the change management director position as issues affecting state agencies' readiness for the transition. One Washington's quality assurance contractor also noted that important activities were not being completed by their deadlines. One Washington has reported that essential tasks are not yet affected and that it still plans to complete the core financials project by the July 1st, 2025 target date. However, less time remains now to complete all necessary tasks. This time compression, along with a desire to meet the planned launch date, could lead One Washington to cut or reduce some planned tasks. Those tasks include training, which comes at the end of the schedule when the pressure to finish the project would be most acute. Two key issues stood out related to the time for and timing of training. First, the planned time for training might be insufficient. Second, training is scheduled at the end of the fiscal year, which is a challenging time for state accounting staff. At that time, the staff who need the training to use the new system will be very busy performing typical year-end accounting activities, such as reconciling accounts. Therefore, fiscal staff might not have sufficient capacity to train on the new system. In addition, adding training on top of staff's existing work could increase the risk of inaccuracies in their financial reporting. We recommend that One Washington ensure project resources, such as websites and training materials, are up to date and easily accessible and shareable with state agency personnel. We also recommend that One Washington produce actionable contingency plans to ensure minimal disruptions to the state's financial reporting. We recommend that One Washington and OFM establish clear go, no-go decision points in the project schedule to mitigate risks associated with launching before readiness. This concludes our presentation, and we welcome any questions you might have.
Other questions from Representative Arcott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anytime you start talking about data and systems, cybersecurity comes to mind, and I didn't see anything mentioned in here about any threats from the cybersecurity aspect of this whole project.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Cybersecurity was not within the scope that we evaluated this topic. We specifically zeroed in on the state's ability to produce those accurate and reliable financial statements for annual reporting.
Representative Paulette?
Thank you. I'm sitting in a room at the University of Washington where we have felt the full effects of not being ready for Workday. And I think that it's been reported that something like over a third of all grant researchers had to delay filing grant applications because of the Workday transition and concerns over it not being ready when it was done. So I'm trying to understand your recommendation about contingency plans and what is the status of having very clear criteria for whether or not any agency attempts to switch over on the July 2025 date. And did you look at that criteria and what has OFM and individual agency response been to having criteria that might delay, and including, are the benefits going to greatly exceed the costs for delay?
Well, and I think OFM in One Washington has representatives here too. If you prefer they answer that, it's your call.
Yeah, I see Christy Frederickson is online. I will just, from our standpoint, we requested to review any and all contingency plans for project implementation, and our understanding, because this was prospective and the work was happening simultaneously, One Washington did not have those plans ready, but they informed us that they are planning to have a contingency plan component to their overall project implementation.
Well, I guess before we go to Christy, in the core presentation, I thought you said AFERS and Workday are going to produce for that first year. Both are going to produce reports. Is that right?
Yes. So our understanding is that AFERS will be producing the financial statements for fiscal year 2025. And even though that it goes live, so in July 1st of 2025, so they'll be, One Washington and OFM will be reconciling from the point it goes live in 2025 till that end of fiscal year.
Christy, did you want to address Representative Paulette's question?
Yes, thank you. For the record, my name is Christy Frederickson. I'm executive sponsor of One Washington with Office of Financial Management. And I did want to share that, as Patrick and John have mentioned, this is a prospective audit. And one of the items specifically is the timing of contingency planning. So the work that we had was scheduled to begin in August after our audit period ended with the state auditor's office. We did provide them with our draft deliverable expectation documents. So any artifacts that we had, any documentation that we had prepared, we shared with the state auditor's office, including the planning and timeline of when those activities would happen. We are in those activities right now per our schedule. As they shared, this audit began 18 months prior to the plan to go live date. So the contingency plan work was scheduled to begin in August, and it did. Those grouping of documents and those bodies of work are due to be finalized later this fall, and we are actively working on those right now. So we agree that they are critically important in having the collection of documents and plans that support a successful go live, which include cutover activities, go no go decision making criteria and framework, and then a contingency plan. So we're working on all three of those activities.
Okay. Can I ask, are other states using Workday? I should know this. I just don't.
There are other states that are using Workday, and government entities. I believe University of Washington was mentioned, WSU within Washington State that are using Workday.
Got it. Oh, Senator Asagawa.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. You might have just answered my question because I was wondering if all agencies are porting over to this Workday, and will this help bring a little more transparency to the operations of the agencies, or is it just strictly a financial reporting system?
Thank you for the question. So within the portfolio is 113 agencies. So any agency today that uses the statewide accounting manual and AFRS, the current system for our statewide accounting, it is more than a technology project. It is also business transformation for having consistency in processes, reporting data. And I would offer my colleague, Brian Tinney, who's our statewide accounting director. Brian, if you have anything you would like to add, would certainly welcome that.
Hello, yes, I'm Brian Tinney. I'm the director of statewide accounting at OFM. So to answer the question, what I see is it's going to standardize data across our current system. Like Christy said, it's a standard business process. We're going to have a centralized control of the data elements so that there'll be consistency. So you will really have more of an apple to apple and not apple and a banana, because depending on the agency and how they use the code. As we kind of go down further and add more modules like HR and purchasing, you will see even more transparency, and it will link things back into the financials. But for now, it will get us off of like a 40-year-old system and kind of get us a reset that gets us a stabilized chart of accounts that we're used to.
Thank you. May I follow up, Mr.
Yes,
Chair?
go ahead, Senator Escobar.
Thanks. So years ago, the Office of the State Auditor tried to do an audit of the University of Washington, for example, and they came back and said that it was virtually impossible to audit because they use an entirely different auditing or accounting system than the rest of state government. So will this require the university to change its accounting system so that it ports over towards Workday? It sounds like they're already using Workday, and I'm just curious how this will affect the auditor's office's ability to look at and do an audit of the University of Washington.
Again, I think that we will hope that we're going to increase transparency because, yes, they have their own instance of Workday. Their FDM values are slightly different than ours, but we have a much more direct mapping that we will see, and it hopefully will increase that transparency, and we will have a better relationship that's documented from their accounts here rolled to the state's accounts and how they connect.
What is FDM, Brian?
Oh, I'm sorry, the foundational data model, which is very similar to the chart of accounts. It's a Workday speak. Basically, it's the way they control their financial systems, and so it will help us improve our mappings. So,
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, I think you're good. Let's move on to running starting college and the high school. Ola and Nancy?
Yeah.
Christy, did you have a comment?
I'm so sorry. I did have some prepared comments.
Go ahead.
Was hoping I'd have an opportunity to share those if that's all right.
This is the perfect time. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I did have an opportunity to introduce myself, but again, my name's Christy Fredrickson. You've had an opportunity to meet Brian Tinney, and then also here in attendance today is Christy Campbell, our One Washington Executive Program Director. I did want to start by acknowledging the audit team and thank them for both their professionalism during the multi-month engagement and the recognition of the workload for OFM and the One Washington team for us to fully engage and participate in this audit, which did take our attention away from project activities. There are a couple of comments that I did want to make, and these are observations about the process of the audit. First, the state auditor's office did, as they have said, this is a prospective audit, which was an example of their team leaning in and identifying risks prior to implementation. And we did appreciate the good intention of that. Unfortunately, we didn't unearth any new insights that weren't already either part of our existing plans, identified through our formal risk and issue identification process, or were raised by our formal oversight. One of the items that we really felt was important was the context of where we were at in the project and the documents that we had available, which I think was already spoken to about contingency planning. Another example of that was the end user training and the timing of which that would occur. So the project plan that we built was in conjunction with our ERP experts and our providers who gave us guidance and advice of when specific activities should occur, such as training, which would be just-in-time training, which is a formal methodology that combines ERP and adult learning best practices, so that those trainings happen at a time that is able to be most leveraged for people as they're getting ready to take on new duties and using a new system. The report did suggest that the time frame for training would be reduced as one of the contingency options. And while that was offered as a mitigation option from our quality assurance provider in late 2023, we want to clarify, and we shared this with the state auditor's office, that that is not a contingency plan that we would support. And we believe this is an example of context that could lead the lead readers of the report or people hearing this testimony that is an option that either we supported or offered, which was not the case. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight that we definitely agree that ERP implementations, especially of this size and complexity, come with risks and unknowns and really require deep knowledge and expertise of subject matter experts. We work closely with Deloitte and Workday, who bring that expertise with us. We also partner closely with WATEC for project oversight and our external quality assurance. Our understanding is that the audit team relied on gaining knowledge through our project documentation, interviews with project team members, reading reports. To our knowledge, they did not engage with our ERP experts or our oversight bodies or procure their own ERP expertise. And we believe that that combination may have contributed to some information being taken out of context that may have identified future risks simply due to the timing of the audit. We certainly appreciate risks based on content of draft materials and activities underway. We accept risks and issues and want to hear those concerns about the content. So in closing, we make a respectful recommendation that the SAO consider engaging with industry experts to augment the audit team to be able to have those specialty skills for these unique types of audits. So thank you for trying to share those comments.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing.